Hey, Motorman here, and today we're going to talk about Harley Davidson shutting down production for at least 2 weeks. If you're not familiar with this channel, I usually give police motor officers technique, tips, tricks, and I show you my class videos and the mistakes people make. I also do motorcycle reviews, I review products, and I do some DIY stuff. If you watch my last video on painting the tour pack, I'm going to show you what it looks like now. Here it is, all sanded, polished, and on the bike, ready to go. The color match from custompaints.com is just perfect. That's birch white and electric blue. And it looks really good on this motorcycle. Now, cue the intro. Alright, as you may or may not have heard, Harley Davidson has shut down production, they say, for 2 weeks. Now, the reason for that is supply chain issues. They can't get what they need to finish their motorcycles. My local dealer has said that there's 3,000 brand new Harley Davidsons sitting in a warehouse that they cannot deliver because they are missing some parts. It could be chips or you know, any one of the parts that are made overseas, and they cannot get the motorcycles delivered to the dealer. The dealers have been in fact, since COVID, they've been motorcycles of very short supply. My local dealer, who normally has probably 25 or 30 brand new motorcycles in stock, has 3 or 4. Same thing with just about every dealer in my area. I don't know about where you're from, but of course the dealers that sell the most motorcycles, they'll get bikes before the other dealers. But the situation is getting worse. The supply chain problems. I'm sure you've heard about the baby formula problem. You know, a lot of this stuff is caused by the government. You know, they're here to help. So with the baby formula, you know, they closed down one of the baby formula factories. They had to do an inspection. They were slow walking the inspection. They're sending all kinds of baby formula down to the border, but grocery stores are in very short supply. So it's pretty much the same thing with everything related to the supply chain. Now, many years ago, just when Harley Davidson was taken over and sold back from, or purchased back from AMF, they took a tour of some Japanese factories to see exactly what they were doing, since they were making a quality product and they were making as many as they wanted. And what they found out was the Japanese use what's called just-in-time production. What that means is you get the parts that you need just in time. You try not to stock anything. And the idea is you don't need to have a warehouse full of parts, and which is what Harley Davidson had for many, many years. In fact, they had so many parts they couldn't fit them in the warehouse. They would stock a lot of parts outside, and by the time they were getting used, a lot of the parts would get rusted and worn. And so they said, well, let's try this just-in-time approach. And in fact, all the auto manufacturers and many other manufacturers use the exact same process, and this works fine. It saves you a bunch of money because you don't have to have a big stock of parts. But the problem arises when something goes wrong with the supply chain, and that's what has happened now. Everybody is paying for I don't care what you manufacture, from auto parts to motorcycle parts to food. I mean, you name it, it's all affected by this just-in-time process of having only enough parts on hand, in some cases, for the day. In fact, many automotive manufacturers brag that they have just exactly what they need for the day's production. Well, any kind of kink in that supply chain is going to cause you problems when that's your philosophy. You would think that they would have enough supplies for, let's say, a month's worth of production, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And especially since the supply chain is so wide now, parts made in China and Vietnam and Mexico, they're made all over the place. And anytime there's any little problem with that supply chain, well, this is what happens. There's a big shortage. And it doesn't look like this is going to be fixed anytime soon. In fact, it's still getting worse. Look at any of your car dealers' showroom or their parking lots, they're almost empty. And what this means for you, of course, is that prices are going to continue to rise. Supply and demand. If there's more demand than supply, prices are going to go up. As a for instance, when I was looking for my Street Glide ST, I called around a couple of dealerships. Orlando Harley Davidson was one that they had one in stock, and they did tell me the price over the phone. They said mid-40s. So they wanted about $10,000 or more over list price for a new Street Glide ST. I wound up purchasing from my local dealership, who did not jack up the price like that. I appreciate it. That's Newport Richie Harley Davidson. Treated me very nice. And this has been going on now. It's got to be over a year, especially with, I notice it especially with Harley Davidson. The dealerships they've got loads of used motorcycles, but very few new bikes. So what does this mean? Are they going out of business? Of course not. It's just going to be a much shorter supply of motorcycles, and how long it's going to last, nobody could say. They're claiming they're shutting down production now for 2 weeks, but it could be longer. I doubt very much if it'll be shorter, and they won't say exactly what parts they're lacking, but I'm sure it's whatever they need to get those motorcycles out. They want to have those parts, and they just can't get them. But my local Newport Richie Harley Davidson did order the bike for me, and in 6 weeks I got it without paying $5,000 more than I paid for the last bike I bought. So you got to shop around, folks, and it's going to get tougher and tougher. I don't know all the dealerships that sell at MSRP, but whatever there are, there's going to be fewer and fewer of them. I know if you're out in California, Laidlaw's Harley Davidson does sell at MSRP. How this shutdown now is going to affect them, because I spoke with Matt Laidlaw at a Harley event, and he said, yeah, that they can't get any new bikes either. In fact, his entire allotment of the Lowrider ST was sold out for the year. And if they wanted to get their entire allotment, they had to cancel some other orders. So things aren't going to get better. They're going to get worse for quite a while. But I wouldn't worry about Harley Davidson cutting production for good. That's just not going to happen. But that's it for now. In case you didn't know about this, now you know. Harley Davidson motorcycles, which were already in short supply, are going to be in even shorter supply, and the price is going to go up. I would imagine the price on used Harleys would go up as well. That's it for now.